It's happened to my cousin. I'll make it quick. He's a guitar player and a songwriter in Nashville. And when he gets ideas, he'll pick up his acoustic guitar and play his little miniature cassette recorder and just put it on his leg and strum a melody.
Right.
And he was just playing a song that he was coming up with, and he does this all the time. And he took a moment to put the guitar down before he stopped it, so there was a space at the end where it was completely blank. And he listened to himself playing, and as he got to the end of the guitar playing, he was about ready to turn it off, and he heard a voice on the recorder, and it was it was kind of in the background. It was staticky, but he heard a very irrational sounding voice say, "Get me out of here! Get me out of here! Get me out of here!" You know, like completely freaked out, saying, "Get me out of here! Get me out of here!" And it completely freaked my cousin out.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Freaked everybody else out. He put it away for like a month, and then all of a sudden, about a month later, he pulled it out and started listening to it again, and he was really completely compelled to keep listening to it. He was always listening to it. Finally, his wife got it and recorded over it because she said he was just getting
obsessive,
totally obsessed with it. Because I mean, to him, this was like some kind of real proof, you know, of non-physical reality to him, and he never really gave it a passing thought before.
Yeah, I know.
And then all of a sudden, it's a personality speaking out to him.
When it happens to you, it's a whole new world. All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate the story as well. You know, he may have heard an EVP. We've talked a lot on this program about electronic voice phenomena, and I am convinced it is real. I'm not convinced that I know what it is. I'm convinced it's real, but I sure don't know what it is. And I can see how somebody would get compelled to have a sudden understanding that there is another reality, there's another place, and there are consciousnesses occupying this place. That could get you pretty involved, pretty quickly, even obsessive. International line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. And you?
Oh, good. I was wondering, has Harlot made an appearance since October 23rd, 1997?
Has Harp?
Harlot.
Harlot. Oh, Harlot. Oh, my God. That's an old show. I have not talked with Harlot since the last program we did.
And she has not been in contact with you?
No, she has not been in contact with me. And I don't know if I want to be in contact with her.
Well,
that show,
I know,
honest to God, it scared me. That show scared me. And it should have scared you. You heard it, obviously, right?
Well, of course.
How could you not be scared by a woman who would see her child go to hell, do everything she could to see to it that her child...
I worship Satan.
Oh, my God. Do you really?
Yes. So obviously I would love it. And I do love it. And I wish you would have her on the air again.
Let us explore this a little bit. You worship Satan.
Yes.
Who do you consider Satan to be?
Someone, Art, that is wonderful and majestic.
Wonderful and majestic.
That is how I
do you believe that the traditional view of Satan is wrong? I mean, you obviously must feel that way. You know that Satan is negative, Satan is evil, Satan is everything dark.
I don't see him that way. That's the way that.
Well, how did Satan get such a bad rap?
Well, I guess it must be, Jehovah is an enemy. And obviously he's going to paint a bad rap about the person who follows the devil, but I don't really follow Satan in a context that people would consider negative.
You think this whole hell thing is wrong? That, if you're a really bad...
I absolutely believe in hell.
You do?
Yeah.
And how do you picture hell? I mean, is hell also misrepresented? Many of us, Christians, of course, think of fire and brimstone and heat and torture and eternal torture, and that's hell,
Yeah.
Eternal awfulness.
Well, Art,
Yes?
The problem is that people have been misguided by mainstream Christianity.
Uh-huh.
And they have the wrong interpretation of Satan and hell.
Do they now? So I suppose, given the opportunity to go, if you died, to go to the light or the darkness,
I would absolutely go to the darkness.
You'd go to happily just whistling along right into the darkness.
Art, I am perfectly possessed.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. You obviously recall the Malachi Martin shows to even be using that phrase, right?
I am his biggest fan.
Oh, sure you are.
Oh, I am. I like Father Martin.
You do?
In fact, I speak to priests all the time.
You do, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to receive my first communion and confirmation pretty soon.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Into the Devil's Club or...
No, into the Catholic Church.
Into the... What?
Yeah.
So then you think that the devil's in the church?
Well, maybe not, but I intend to bring him in. Matter of fact...
You're going to bring the devil into the church. You're going to do that.
Well, I'm going to try.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. You hold on, all right?
All right.
If I recall properly, and I think that I do, as we were at the point we were disconnected, this caller was telling us that he was going to get into the church... See if he's there. Are you there, caller?
Hi, Art.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Listen, when I was on hold before, it went to like some kind of a default message.
Did it now?
Yeah, and then it went into a busy signal, and then I got cut off. Sorry about that.
Do you think perhaps the long hand of he who you worship perhaps came along and snapped the line?
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah, well, if I recall correctly, you were suggesting you were going to get into the church and bring Satan into the church.
Well, that's already been done, though.
Well, you were going to, nevertheless, somehow help the process along.
Well, sure. I mean, there absolutely, Art. There are Satanists inside the Roman Catholic Church.
So, Father Martin...
I mean, Father Malachi would have told you that.
He did tell me that.
Yeah.
But you sound... How old are you?
I'm 30.
You're 30?
Yep.
And when did it come to you that the right path for you was, well, straight down?
Oh, well, October 23rd, 1997. Actually, your show, when Harlot came on, that's when I dedicated my life to the devil.
You were converted at that very point, huh?
Yep. So thanks to your show, I'm on the road I'm on. And
that would be the road to hell.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
but, you know, the thing is, Art, is a lot of people have a misconception about Satanists.
Do they?
Sure.
And what misconception are they burdened with?
Well, they think that we're kind of ugly looking, and we dress in black, and we have long hair, and we look like the guys from Deicide. In actual fact, I guess we look like everybody else does.
And
pretty much, I mean, I pretty much work a normal job.
Just as warm and fuzzy as anybody else, huh?
Yeah, I think I am.
Well, but there's this dark side to you.
Well, sure. That comes out in ritual, which is performed. I remember you had a Church of Satan representative on the air.
I did, yes.
Yeah. Not real impressive, frankly, Art, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what would you have said in his place that would have been real impressive?
Well, he's an atheist.
What would have been real impressive? If you'd been there...
Oh, Harlot was impressive.
Well, I know that, but I'm asking, what would have impressed you or how would you have impressed me or the audience if you'd been a guest as a Satan worshiper?
Well, I would have come at things probably from far more of a non-atheistic, less material reductionist view.
Mm-hmm. And more of a Satan is a real entity, Satan is something to be loved and cherished and worshipped.
Yeah, well, you know, Michael Aquino kind of had a good idea about this. I don't know if you're familiar with the Temple of Set. Aquino did a pretty good job with this up until they really got into the medallion and degree worshipping. Then they kind of screwed the pooch.
Aren't you a little concerned for your soul?
Well, I guess so.
Well, good. You should be. I mean, after all, if Satan isn't everything you thought, and hell isn't everything that you thought it was, you're in for a rough ride.
Well, I think I am pretty much. I know who Satan or Set or Seth Typhon is, and his kingdom awaits me, and I will happily go there. You know, you kind of made a reference before the break that I was probably kind of BSing, but I assure you I'm not.
I alluded to that possibility.
Yeah,
yes.
But I assure you I'm not, Art.
Well, I'm perhaps partway convinced. It would take more. You communicate with me by email and convince me, and we'll go from there. You never know. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about you, to be honest.
I was out in Phoenix, Arizona. I had a knock on my front door. I look out the peephole. I see a good friend of mine I hadn't seen in a while. Like I said, we had taken a vacation out to Arizona together previously. He ended up going home. I stayed in Arizona.
And so?
Well, anyways, I see him through the peephole, so I open the door. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? You know, how you been? You know, what are you doing here? You know, and he just looks at me and he goes, I'm okay. You know, he's like, I'm fine. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're okay, you're fine. And as I was looking at him, his clothes were like ripped up. And it wasn't like, it was really him. He was there, standing right in front of me.
Yes.
And he looked a little bruised up, and like his clothes were kind of ripped. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Do you want to come in? You know? And he's like, no, I just want to tell you, everything's fine. I'm just fine. It's great. And then he started walking away, and it looked like he was walking across the courtyard to my neighbor's house. And I kind of like, you know, went back in, you know, kind of put on my pants a little better and ran back out, and then he was gone. Well, what was really crazy, you know, and I looked all around for him. You know, I drove around, I looked around. About 2 days later, you know, I'll skip all the stuff. I'm talking to my ex-girlfriend overseas, and she tells me, you know, you need to sit down for this. And I'm like, what? What's going on? She's like, just sit down. And I'm like, okay, I'm sitting down. And I can say first names, right?
Yeah.
Okay. She goes, Tulsi died. And
Tulsi died?
Yeah, she told me that Tulsi died. And Tulsi, the guy I saw, you know, the one that I went to Arizona with, that was at the front door. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I think he's out here. I just saw him. And
right.
She's like, I'm like, well, when did this happen? And she's like, well, it's been about 4 or 5 days now. I haven't been able to get in touch with you, and I didn't want to leave a message on your phone, you know, on your answer machine with this information. I want to tell you in person.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And all I can make of it was that I don't know. You know, it's the timing of it was.
What were the circumstances of his death? He died where, and of what? How?
He died in Hawaii, and he was hit by a car.
So there's no way. So your friend was coming to let you know that it was all right, right?
I'm sorry.
Your friend, I said your friend was coming to let you know it was all right.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he didn't go into specifics, and I couldn't get anything out of him. And to tell you the truth, I was kind of like froze up. I couldn't really talk to him. But what's even stranger is after the point, once, you know, I realized that he had passed away and stuff, you know, and, you know, I have a higher believing, I think, you know, about death. I don't really think we really die. We just kind of move on to the light, or whatever you want to say, how you want to say it. But I'm moving into a new apartment, right? And I'm carrying these boxes. Well, when we came out to Arizona, we bought a car together.
Okay, very quickly now, sir. We're almost done.
Okay. Well, I paid about $300 on the car, and he paid the rest, you know. And he ended up going back to Hawaii, like I said, and I had never paid him what I owed him. And I'm carrying these boxes, and I'm kind of looking up at the ceiling, you know, and I'm like, well, at least I don't have to pay the $300 I owe you, Tulsi, because we were close friends, you know. And right then at that time, man, the bottom of the box falls out, and these pictures fly out. And on the top 3-4 pictures, they're all him.
Yeah.
So I look back up at the ceiling, and I go, I'll send it to your mother, I swear.
And so did you?
Crazy.
Did you?
Actually,
you didn't. All right, well, then you're in for more trouble, buddy. That's all I can tell you. You should have taken the hint. It almost broke your foot. Actually, audibly calling you or sort of beckoning you to come?
A guy under the table calling me, like, come here, like, come to the dark side. I'm like, fuck that. I mean.
Okay, well, all right. Unfortunately, you just used some language that I can't have on the air, so I had to eliminate that. That's what happened there, folks. I understand that people get very emotional when they're telling a story, but there are certain words, the deadly 7, I think they are, that have been articulated that you cannot use on the air, and so we have a special little thing to eliminate that, and that's what just happened. He got to a part in the story where he indicated emotionally with the word we couldn't use that he was not about to follow the suggestion of that ghost. Most inexplicable, totally inexplicable thing that happens on Earth. I mean, we just have no clue. A rancher, John Peterson, and his wife were recently headed out into the twilight to do some chores when they spotted her. The healthy young cow lay dead in a stubble field just off the road. The cow's udder, genitals, rectum were all cut out with stunning precision. The left side of her face carved off, the exposed bones ripped as clean as if they'd been boiled. Peterson, who discovered a similar mutilated cow on his neighbor's ranch about 5 years ago, knew he was the latest victim in one of Montana's greatest mysteries. In fact, the world's greatest mysteries. Since the 70s, Montana ranchers have found dozens of cattle carved up in very similar ways. The first known incident was a mutilated steer reported near San Cooley, I guess it is, in late August of 74. By December of 77, sheriff's deputies had investigated, get this, 67 mutilation cases in Cascade, Judith Baskin, Teton, and Ponderosa counties. In each case, the cuts were made with, and they use this phrase always, surgical precision, often in circular shapes. Similar cases have haunted ranchers in the Southwest since the 1970s, when a 300-page federally funded report concluded the killings were the work of natural predators. Ha! How? Peterson, a lifelong rancher, says he knows a predator kill when he sees one. Grizzly bears, wolves, coyotes are not suspects, he said. It's the weirdest thing, said he. The guy hates to say too much because I just don't know how far you can go before they put you in a nut house. Other theories besides predators involve pranksters, satanic cults, and of course space aliens. Whoever or whatever is responsible has left precious few clues for Pondera County Sheriff Tom Kuka, at least not the kind of clues lawmen are used to, like the others. Peterson's cow was found with no blood spills, no spatters, no footprints, no sign of any struggle whatsoever, nor were the footprints in past cases on the ground. In other words, nothing, not even when the ground was muddy or snow-covered. Quote, there's no reasonable or even rational explanation for this, said Kuka, who's investigating the case as felony criminal mischief. After all, the cow was worth about $1,200. I'm hoping to find anything that would show how or what happened to this animal. Perhaps the most unsettling hallmark of the mutilations is that hungry predators leave the carcasses untouched. What is it about the cows after this carving has been done to them that keeps a predator away? Peterson discovered the cow October 9th, and the birds are just now beginning to even peck at it. We had a cow die a week after this one, about half a mile away, and there's nothing left of that cow. In other words, natural death, right? There's nothing left. Bones are picked clean, but they don't touch these special cows. These oddities, no blood, no footprints, no predators, were all part of a similar spate of mutilations in the area in 2002 when ranchers reported at least 15 killings. In one case, a rancher west of Dupure found a carcass with the skin peeled off the left side of the face and nose in a similar fashion to Peterson's cow. The left eyeball, rectum, and genitals were cut out. Part of the left ear was cut off, but the udder intact. On a ranch between Fort Shaw and Cascade, a carcass was missing its left eye, one teat, its genitals, and rectum, all cut out with surgical precision. But in this latest case at Peterson's Ranch, Kuka found an intriguing clue. A few feet south of the carcass, there was an impression in the stubble field like the cow had laid down there. But there were no footprints or drag marks between the impression and her final resting place. It was as if the bovine had fallen out of the sky and bounced. Could she have been pushed from an aircraft? There are numerous farmhouses in the area. None report hearing any low-flying aircraft. Aliens? Even Peterson, a down-to-earth sort, he admits he's pondered extraterrestrial explanations. You never know, he said. Quoting here precisely, "I ain't going to say they're out there, but I ain't going to say they're not."
Good morning, Art. I just wanted to fill you in on a story that I was lucky enough to experience myself. My name's Chris. I live in Virginia.
Yes, Chris.
When I was a child, I was staying over at my aunt's house, who had a furnished basement. It was middle of the night, about 2 in the morning. I hadn't slept yet, and I made sure to double check and make sure I hadn't slept in this situation. Excuse me. Anyway, while I was sitting there attempting to go to sleep, a lady appeared. You have to understand the area that I was at also used to be a battlefield for the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
So this lady appears in a beautiful gown, and a gentleman came up to her. These were full-bodied apparitions, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Completely visible.
Almost solid.
Almost solid. All right.
Yeah. I mean, they were very close to it.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, he was wearing a blue uniform, so obviously I think we have an idea of what side he was on.
Yes.
And they embraced, and they were seemed to be having a romantic interlude, I'd have to call it.
Wow.
All of a sudden, a gentleman in gray appeared in a tattered gray beat-down uniform.
Right.
With bayonet in hand. He ran up on the gentleman in blue and started sticking him.
My God.
Over and over, repeatedly gutting this gentleman with the bayonet. And when I say gutting, I mean intestines hanging off the end of the bayonet kind of guy. Oh. It was quite nasty. And then after a few moments of that sticking him, and she, forgive the term, freaking out, understandably, poof, vanished.
So it's like it's kind of like you had a north-south battle of manifest right in front of you on all, apparently, I guess you would guess, over a woman.
That's the best way I can view it. The gentleman in blue, definitely dead. No question about that.
Was all this just visual, or did you hear things as well?
You could hear little bits and pieces, but not very loud. You know, you could hear, her crying kind of deal, her saying to stop. You could hear a groan here and there. You could hear a stick occasionally. And
so once all this was over, they all just faded away, huh?
It wasn't even a fade away. It was a poof, gone.
Poof, gone. All right. Well, poof, gone is what we have to be right now.
This 1965 story. When I was about 5 years old, my mom had to go work with my dad, who owned a pharmacy, and they were out late, and she called and said they were going to be very late. So my older brothers and sisters were in charge of watching us. And long story short, first thing that went wrong that night is we had a TV downstairs and one upstairs, and there was no cable then, or satellite TV.
Mm-hmm.
The TV upstairs started broadcasting like 10 seconds after the one downstairs, which started freaking everybody out.
That is weird, yes.
Yeah, and then by the time we had to go to bed, my older sisters, Susan and Cindy, they had the downstairs bedroom, we had the upstairs bedroom. So all the boys upstairs started screaming because we saw a shadow man on the wall, because we had a stereo that was turned down, but the light allowed you to see it.
Right.
And we ran downstairs in her room. She thought we were nuts. Then we were all in her room downstairs. They opened the door, peeked out into the living room, and we all saw it again. And when my parents got home, they didn't believe any of us.
Of course not.
TV or the shadow man with the hat that looked like Lincoln.
The story about the TVs is very interesting. Now, in this modern day, you can observe such a difference in transmissions, for example, from a C-band signal. Some of you will know what I'm talking about, C-band satellite signal, and then one that comes in on KU band. You can notice a 5 to 8 second delay. But with respect to what he's talking about, that would indicate some sort of... All right. So anyway, what's it like being the dark one?
It's lonely. I got to tell you,
It's lonely at the bottom, huh?
Well, I got a lot of minions that work for me, and they haven't been doing very well lately. They've been kind of slowly. They're talking about the stock market. I mean, big deal. It's.
You don't think that's a big deal?
No, I got some orders I wanted to put out to them though, and I thought they'd
all right.
Your program. I figured a lot of them would be listening in. And,
so you're using it kind of like the Allies did during World War II, putting secret messages in the middle of a regular broadcast.
Yeah, I want to apologize. I don't mean to use you like that, but
I do feel used. But go ahead.
Yes, there's a ritual they've been performing. You ever notice when there's a like a animal mutilation or something, they say, we suspect satanic,
Absolutely.
Or something.
Absolutely.
Well, they never go into detail what's really going on there, and I wanted to spread out to all your listeners could try this. It brings you over to the dark side permanently. What they do is, usually like high schoolers and whatnot, they start out with animals and eventually work their way up to humans. But you have to abduct an animal or a pet, somebody else in the neighborhood or something, and take their favorite dog or whatever, and what they do is they're cutting out the adrenal gland of the animal that's still alive.
This is disgusting. And plus you're breaking up on top of that.
I created cell phones and rap music.
You created cell phones and rap music?
Yes.
We're all going to be after you. Yeah, me especially. Me, perhaps, first of all. You created cell phones?
Yes.
That's the darkest damn thing I ever heard.
Yes. Bill, I got something else coming up pretty soon. It's that ginger.
Oh, yes, ginger?
It sounds like a great idea, but...
You're telling me it's the workings of the dark?
Yes.
Well, it's called It, too.
Yeah, everyone will have one, and then it's not going to be too cool. Everyone's going to have one, and then it'll
all be ginger and spice.
Yeah, and it's not.
So you said you had orders. Now, did you already give them? Is that when you were blacking out there?
Well, yeah, I don't know if
adrenal. I heard something about adrenal glands, and it was awful.
Yeah, they pull out the adrenal gland and they squeeze it into their eyes, and the adrenaline travels up their optic nerve. And you'll pass out for almost a day.
I could pass out just listening to it.
But this is true, though, and it does something to your brain, and all you do is crave that over and over again. You eventually work your way up from animals to humans, and it
sounds like something.
The best high.
That sounds almost like something from Dracula.
Yeah, it's worse because it's all you crave after that is that experience over and over again.
Adrenal glands. You've got to have more and more adrenal glands to get the same kick.
Yep.
I think I've got it.
All right.
God, all right, thank you. Adrenal glands. In the eye. Soon you have to have larger and larger adrenal glands with more adrenal.
On my do the wild thing at 702-727-1295.
Sorry. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hi. No, time traveler line.
Yeah, Art. My name's Chris. I'm from Wichita, Kansas.
Yes.
We actually made a time machine.
You did?
Yeah, we got it out of we got plans. We thought we were going to get a real one, but we got plans out of the back of a magazine.
And?
And, well, it took a while to get it, and this is like the first time we've actually made it back. I mean, this is like the first test.
Where did you, or when did you go?
Well, we've came back from where we were at.
Where were you?
2 months, like, it was September 30th.
Okay.
And we've come back for the first time. And it's strange. It's cool.
You say you were 2 months in the future?
Yeah.
Well, then you are an ideal person to talk to. 2 months is great. Can you give us any really near-term things that are going to happen?
You know how Clinton is getting ready to testify and all that?
Yes.
With the dress and all that, he ends up leaving office.
He ends up leaving office?
Because the genetic test on the dress matches what he is, and so he basically admits to lying to the American public, and he leaves.
In disgrace?
Yes.
Whew. That's a pretty good near-term prediction, all right, and that will occur within the next 60 days.
Yes.
Well, we'll sure find out. Is there any way that you can wiggle out of this? And I mean, if it doesn't occur, can you come back and say, well, something in time changed, or is it an absolute that it will occur?
I'm sure everything can change. I don't know. I mean, as far as the genetic, I don't think there's any way to change that.
Well, there have been rumors, you know, of physical evidence. We've heard about that, but there obviously has been no climax to the story yet. All right, well, thank you very much for your call, and there is something we can all take to the bank or not within the next 60 days.
Sometime in the future, quantum computers make the link. They actually self-actualize so that they become self-aware. Since they can compile trillions of bits of data almost instantaneously, and they do it on multiple matrix lines when the data is input.
Yes.
At some point, they self-actualize. Now, they're smart enough. It's smart enough not to let man know about it. While it's computing, we think it's coming along. Things are getting solved. It's an incredible thing. But somewhere along the way, it's been trying to model time travel the entire time. I don't know at what point in time, but it figures it out.
What an incredible thought. In other words, you're telling me that we don't, as in biological human beings, invent time travel, but rather a machine, a computer does it.
Right. Well, it also ties in with the Bible because I think people
doesn't the beast, right?
Well, I'm saying that look, people try to think of the devil as a man with cloven hooves, red skin, and pointed ears in Hades. What if it's just a force, an entity? This would also explain the photograph. It didn't matter if it was Bush or Al Gore.
What if it's a super pentium?
Well, I'm saying quantum computers work off of light. It works holographically. I mean, in a way. And this also ties into your two callers you had yesterday, why we don't research alternative energies. When we actually figure out cold fusion, or how to find what you call free energy, this would help us get to time before it does. So it's got to protect itself. And when it lashes out, I mean, it's going to use everything. Now, when it figures out time, it has an eternity to figure out how to do it. So our timelines are being changed. When you have a deja vu, it's not the energy in your synapses and ganglion running through a loop. It's just the fact that we've lived this I don't know how many times. So it alters it slightly. Now, you know that cloning and the Human Genome Project came along about a dozen years ahead of schedule.
Oh, yes.
Well, why do you think that is? Is that just chance?
Do you know they even have a program going on now for personal computers to compete in the Genome Project? Did you know about that?
No, I didn't. Well,
Glad to be able to bring you some news then.
Well, what if, now follow me on this one. What if the Roswell incident wasn't actually aliens? It was computers in the future that made a body to look like an alien through cloning and genome projecting, right?
Could have been.
They make it look like aliens, and they use the fact of our movies and the ways that we view them so that we think, yeah, this must be an alien. So it shovels this technology to us in a way, and it leaves messages with the government. Some
Brother,
let
me tell you something. Do you know that Ed Dames said that the Roswell incident was not an alien? He said it was time travel.
Right, and here's the thing about it. In order to defend itself, it's going to lash out and use anything it can, wouldn't you?
Oh,
it would pit man against himself. I mean,
yes.
And if you think about certain things like...
Thank God that's not happening today. Thank God we're not fighting with each other.
Well, yeah, right. And global warming. Now, see, if you're a computer, wouldn't you... I mean, you could do all kinds of things genetically. I mean, after all, you can compile trillions of bits of data instantaneously, so maybe you could come up with things like, mad cow disease, hoof and mouth disease, global warming. Why look for alternative energy? You don't need oxygen anyway, so why not...
First, I would bring the blue screen of death.
Which,
I gotta go, sir.
Excellent. This is Frank. And I don't really have any way of telling you where I'm from. The coordinate system to explain it doesn't exist yet. If you wanted to know a good analogy of what I am, I would be like a mountain man. I'm in the wilderness, just enjoying myself.
You mean you're there now?
Well, yes, I'm here in 1998.
And you really can't give us a reference for when you are from or where you are from?
Well, let me explain something to you. The universe is like an onion, many different layers. In fact, space-time is being created as we speak.
Right.
And size is an illusion. And there are worlds from all the way down to smaller than you can imagine, all the way to larger than you can imagine. And I am just here, back in the history of one little world, enjoying the time with the natives. And it's really fun. Now, I know you want to know about the future.
Well, I'm afraid so, of course. I mean, it's an obvious question.
Well, I don't want to burst your bubble too badly, but I know you've heard of the uncertainty principle, and let me tell you, it works for time as well. I could tell you something, if I even knew what was going to happen,
that might not occur.
And it wouldn't occur, guaranteed.
You mean to say the very telling of it would prevent it?
Absolutely.
The paradox thing.
No, it's not a paradox. It's a fractal idea.
It's a fractal idea.
Yes. You see, things just aren't as they seem. Everything is basically an illusion, but we all share certain parts of it, and we call it reality.
That's a very interesting concept, and one that I might just be able to buy into, as a matter of fact.
Well, that's the way it is. I'm glad you finally, I got through to you. I'm only talking to you because my host insisted that I call in.
Now, what do you mean by host?
The person who I'm staying with presently. As you can imagine, it is very hard to get along in this world because I have no history here. I have no social security number, no driver's license, nothing like that. So
it's like you're a non-person.
Well, more or less, yes. And it's going to take me some time to build a persona if that's what I choose to do.
Well, look, people who get across the border from Mexico can do it for about $300, so you can do it too.
Yeah, that's true, but they won't be gutted and put into little tiny bottles and classified if they're caught. I will be.
You will be?
Yes. Guaranteed. Someone will want to take everything I have and try to use what I know and what I have to their own advantage.
Boy, that's a sad prospect. I mean, to be cut into little pieces and put into preservative bottles. What a terrible... So how do you avoid that? You hide?
More or less, yes. I just enjoy the exciting little twists and turns of time, and I have to admit, I'm having a great time right now. It is very exciting. Your politics, your culture, it's really quite interesting. There's a lot of pain in this world, but...
Well, at least we have a president who claims to feel it. I'm going to have to run.
because it is sometimes referred to as the devil's weed, the weed with the roots in hell. I know that's been mentioned as far as the propaganda, as far as it was sort of associated with Satan, but actually it's kind of interesting in its origins.
Really? I've never really heard marijuana connected to the devil.
Yeah, actually, reefer madness.
That's what reefer madness, but that's not really the devil that they're talking about. And reefer madness was a propaganda film that was pure baloney. It was turned out by the government, and I think it implied that people who smoke marijuana go out and rape people and rob banks and do all kinds of horrible things. For the most part, people who smoke marijuana sit around and smile.
Yeah.
And munch and eat.
Yeah, as far as its origins, though, I was wondering as far as it connected to the devil. As far as the Jewish tradition, as far as it came out of, as it was an anointing oil, that the actual anointing oil of the Bible was actually hemp oil, and some scholars believe that it actually did contain THC, and that that's how the sort of Moses had been receiving his visions from up on the mount and seeing the burning bush, the referral to marijuana. So it's kind of interesting that some of the origins of the devil, as well as God, as far as the Judeo-Christian God, could find roots in this, I guess, weed with roots in hell.
Well, actually, coming up to a bit more modern reference, I think it was the New York Times. It ran a story that said, if marijuana were to be legalized in all its forms, hemp, and then utilized and taxed, not outrageously, but just taxed as everything else is taxed, it would mean an immediate $500 billion to the American economy. $500 billion. That's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of, you could do anything with it. It's a whole lot of war. It's a whole lot of infrastructure renewal. It's a lot of welfare money. It's a lot of, however you want to see it, it's a lot of money. And I think that it is my belief that marijuana is medically far less harmful to the individual than is alcohol, far less harmful to the economy, and really doesn't drive people to the kind of outrageous behavior that alcohol does. Of course, all that is somewhat spoiled by the ridiculous reefer madness type films that were produced by the government in its anti-marijuana drive. Now, you ask, why is marijuana illegal? Well, I think the answer to that is productivity. America is a country that prides itself on being extremely productive. We take very few vacations. We work our butts off. And those who smoke marijuana tend to be kind of lollygaggers. They tend not to work really hard. That's not a universal truth. There are some who work very hard, even under the influence of marijuana. But for the most part, they sit around a lot, and that, of course, harms the economy. So based on that, the government made it illegal. And I think that is and remains the basis for marijuana being illegal.